Milan, known for its monumental architecture, known for its trend-setting fashion. Step inside its massive cathedral and be engulfed by feelings of peace. Hey, what's this? That's a cool statue. Is that Captain Picard? It's a little strange seeing a completely bald sculpture like this. Let's get a little closer. His foot looks a bit odd, and what's he wearing? That's a weird-looking cloak. Wait, is that his face? Is he wearing his own skin?
Help me.
So, yeah, this is a man wearing his own skin. I mean, we're pretty much all wearing our own skin, but, you know. This is called Saint Bartholomew Flayed, a work by a man who may be the most arrogant artist you'll ever come across. So what's this guy doing here, and how'd he end up losing his skin? And what's it got to do with India? And most importantly, why is Bartholomew the Pauly Shore of Christianity? This is your warning. Look, I can't really explain how this guy lost his skin while still keeping it all upbeat, right? So there's gonna be some gross paintings and stuff in here, and you're welcome to go watch some Pokemon videos instead if that's more your speed. Now there's this thing called being martyred, which basically means losing your life because of your beliefs. Martyrs kind of formed the foundation of the early Christian church. Most famously, the Apostle Peter is said to have been martyred by being crucified upside down, since he believed he wasn't worthy of facing the same fate as Jesus. And here's where things get increasingly gruesome. St. Cassian was a teacher whose students supposedly tied him to a stake, then basically stabbed him with their pens. It's said that St. Sebastian was tied to a tree and shot with arrows, which he survived. Then he went to the Roman Emperor Diocletian and told him what a bad boy he was and was promptly smashed with clubs. And there's good old St. Lawrence. According to tradition, he was grilled alive and said, quote, "I'm well done on this side. Turn me over." So I think you can probably tell where this is going, and let's just say it has a lot to do with skincare. Welcome to the big dinner party. As you probably know, Jesus had 12 apostles, and how many can you name? Well, there's Peter, and there's Thomas, like Doubting Thomas, and of course that sneaky old Judas. Now I'm sure some of you could name the others, like Andrew, but for the most part they aren't exactly high profile. I mean, Andrew's known as Peter's brother, and if that doesn't give you an inferiority complex, then I don't know what would. So Bartholomew is one of the apostles, and he's probably the same guy as the apostle Nathaniel. It says a lot that people aren't even totally sure what the guy's name is, or if he's the same guy as another guy. Even at the same table, they're like, what's that guy's name again? Larry or Gary? I don't know, I thought you were the one keeping track. We can't exactly ask him now. The reason for all this confusion over the name is that in the New Testament's original language, Greek, his name is Bartholomeos, meaning son of Ptolemy, so Bartholomew was his last name. And Nathaniel's mentioned as hanging out with the Apostle Philip in the Gospel of John, and it's Bartholomew who hangs out with Philip in the other three Gospels, so that's how that conclusion was reached. He's the guy who hangs out with that other guy. So the Bible has a couple of lines explaining how Jesus met Bartholomew, which is basically Philip introduced him. Beyond that, mentions of Bartholomew essentially amount to, also, Bartholomew was there. Remember when Jesus multiplied the fish and turned water into wine and transformed bread into Thin Mints? Wait, I think I got those stories confused, but Bartholomew was probably there. So even in a list of apostles where there's James and other James, Bartholomew is, well, no disrespect, but he's kind of a D-lister. If you met him out on the street, you'd be like, oh, hey, it's, I know you. You think you could get me Peter's autograph? Which is why I think of him as the Pauly Shore of the apostles. You'd know who he is, then ask about how well he knows Brendan Fraser. Now, after Jesus was gone, the apostles went out on their own magical mystery tours, telling the world to like and subscribe to Jesus. The Bible doesn't say where Bartholomew went, but we do know more than just what's in the Bible, and it involves three famous words, according to tradition. Supposedly, Bartholomew went here, India. Which, isn't that the strangest and most random thing you've ever heard? Sure, the apostles went out to hype people up about Jesus, but India just seems entirely alien from the biblical world. Of course, it did look quite a bit different than it looks today, but not entirely different. Hinduism's been around for a long time. Now, there's conflicting stories about Bartholomew, but the basis of it comes from a Greek dude named Eusebius, who was a bishop back in the 4th century and wrote a lot of things, including a history of the early church. Is it true? Well, why are you asking me? I don't know. No one really knows for sure. And what he writes is rather sparse. But of course, others wrote far more detailed stories about Bartholomew. As for whether or not any of them are true, well, I could write a story about how Bartholomew and Philip like to sit around and play Zelda on Nintendo 64. And you'd probably say that's easy to disprove since they obviously didn't have Zelda back then. But it's a little more difficult to disprove these stories, even though some of them come from a medieval manuscript called The Golden Legend, which doesn't exactly fill one with confidence about how true they might be. So supposedly, according to tradition, Bartholomew spread that Jesus hype around India and wore the same clothes for 26 years, but never smelled bad. He also went around performing exorcisms and faced off against a lying con-man demon named Astaroth, who said he could heal the sick, but was actually the one making them sick in the first place. Now, I'm not saying none of this is true, but I did go to India and I didn't see any demons there. I did see a lot of monkeys, though, and one of them grabbed a can of Fanta, then poured it out and drank it.
Hello.
So anyway, before I showed off and tried to impress you by talking about how I went to India, which I did, the stories also claim that Bartholomew converted a local king to Christianity. Then the locals got mad about Bartholomew getting rid of their temples and their gods, and the king's brother, who's also apparently a king, gets rid of Bartholomew in a manner known as flaying. It's important to note that some stories say Bartholomew also went to Armenia, or that the story actually happened in Armenia. I haven't been there, so I don't know if they have demons or not. But the one thing I do know is that flaying was an actual thing. So here's where things really get gross. Flaying means cutting off someone's skin while they're still alive. And if there's one thing humans are known for, it's finding really horrible ways of wiping out people they don't like. Here's the ancient Assyrians doing it to some enemies of the state. And so Bartholomew's flaying meant he became a rather popular figure in the realm of art. Most famously, he's in the Sistine Chapel. Not on the ceiling, but over on the wall as part of The Last Judgment by Michelangelo. Most believe the face on the skin is actually a self-portrait of Michelangelo, which I'll let you draw your own conclusions on what that says about him. And sure, a lot of the art depicts Bartholomew with his skin intact and also holding his skin, but I think we have to consider that sculpting someone with no skin would have been the ultimate flex. Get it? Flex? Because... never mind. The artist behind this work of nightmares was named Marco de Grate, and there don't seem to be any depictions of him, so let's just say he looked like this. He completed it back in 1562, and we have to remember that one of the hallmarks of the Renaissance was a knowledge of anatomy. People like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci famously dissected corpses to learn more about how humans were put together. So Marco shows Bartholomew holding the knife he was flayed with, and clutching what seems to be the Gospel of Matthew. And of course, Marco's showing off. He's telling the world that he's mastered anatomy. And if we need proof of his confidence, we need look no further than what Marco wrote on the sculpture, which references Praxiteles, a renowned and revered sculptor from ancient Greece. Here on the base, he wrote in Latin, "I was not made by Praxiteles, but rather Marco de Grate." It seems a bit as if I were to say, you might think Steven Spielberg made this video you're watching, but no, it was me. Though Marco's intent may have been to show off his skill, it seems most visitors are a bit torn. The sculpture even terrified Mark Twain himself, who said, "It was a hideous thing, and yet there was a fascination about it somewhere. I am very sorry I saw it, because I shall always see it now. I shall dream of it sometimes. I shall dream that it is resting its corded arms on the bed's head and looking down on me with its dead eyes. I shall dream that it is stretched out between the sheets with me and touching me with its exposed muscles and its stringy, cold legs." So I guess the question we have to answer is why? Why did Bartholomew's story focus on his flaying? Or why did martyrdom become such an important part of Christianity in the first place? Certainly many early Christians were martyred, but I suppose you could argue that it used these people as an example. Like, look at what they went through for their faith. Surely you can do what's asked of you. Maybe the statue is meant to haunt people like it did Mr. Twain. People did travel to India from the Roman Empire, and maybe Bartholomew did go there. But in the absence of any real information about Bartholomew in the actual Gospels, perhaps stories were just invented or embellished over the centuries. Maybe it's like saying Bartholomew loved his N64, except with these stories, there was an actual purpose behind them. But whether the life of Bartholomew is fact or fan fiction, he's proof positive that even someone relegated to the background can become legendary. Maybe someday you too can be held up as a testament to standing firm in the face of fear. Maybe you don't have to be the Pauly Shore of any story, just as long as you're willing to get your skin peeled off.
We're waiting to take you away. Better like and subscribe, not just to Jesus, but to this channel. It's what he would want.